Hey everyone, hi. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be reviewing Cutting for Stone by Abraham Verghese. This was originally published in 2009, and you may or may not actually know Verghese by his latest book, which is called Covenant of Water. I reviewed Covenant of Water earlier on my channel this year, and so I will leave that video link down below. But anyhow, if you are new here, then hello, I'm Shelly. I love books and reading. I love it so much that I have a whole YouTube channel dedicated to the subject. And if you find yourself enjoying this video and the vibe, I would encourage you to subscribe, stick around, and without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. So my edition of Cutting for Stone is published by Vintage Canada. This was originally published in 2009. So how did I come to pick up this book? As I mentioned, I read Covenant of Water, and that was published this year, 2023. And a lot of people were very excited because Cutting for Stone, according to the comments, was one of so many of y'all's favorite book of all time, or in the top 10, or such a fantastic and memorable read. I had not heard about this, and I had originally talked about Covenant of Water, Verghese's second book, when I was reacting to a New York Times, anticipated releases list. And so I had gotten a bunch of messages about how excited a lot of people were about Covenant of Water because this book was so good. So I read Covenant of Water. That is a behemoth of a thing. I mean, this book is not short, rather. It's a not short book. But Covenant of Water is like 900 pages, or hovers around 900 pages. And the best way to sum that up is that I felt quite trapped by the book at times. There were times where it was really good. There was times when it was good and it was very, very good. And there was times when it was bad, and when it was bad, it was horrid. That's how I felt about Covenant of Water. And so I found this at a secondhand bookstore, and my sweet buddy reader, my friend and buddy reader, Anita, who I read Covenant of Water with, we wanted to try Verghese again with Cutting for Stone, the book that basically everybody raved about. Everybody said was amazing, and so we picked it up. So that's how I came to read Cutting for Stone. Hopefully I get all of the names correct. I don't know if I will. So Cutting for Stone is set in Ethiopia. Our narrator, Marion, is a twin, and it is told in this way where he is reflecting back on his life and how he came to this world, which is a harrowing and quite it's just a harrowing and exciting tale of how he came to this world. It is tragic and brutal and intense, and I will get to that in just a moment, and I won't spoil it. But so we have our narrator, Marion, and we realize very quickly that his mother is a nun. She is a nun. Her name is Sister Mary Joseph Praise, and she comes to Ethiopia to do good work in the world. And along the way, she meets a doctor named Dr. Stone. And they have a really kind of odd, they have this encounter in which they really need to lean on each other for support, as they both are traveling to a place where they essentially, again, want to do good in the world. And they form a bond right away. And so she finds herself in the same hospital as Stone, and they again there's this like bond between them, and they start doing surgery together, and she sort of, to the surprise of everyone, goes into labor one day. Like, I swear to y'all, I'm not spoiling anything. This all happens within the first 100 pages. And as she's in labor, which is a scene that he does this thing where Verghese does this thing, rather, not like Stone or anyone, where we're in the present time of her being in labor, and then someone comes onto the scene as she's in labor, and he introduces you to that person and how they came to this hospital called Missing, Missing, Missing. And then, something else happens, so you get their backstory, this new character's backstory, and then you go back to the present in which Sister Mary Joseph Praise is in this like terrifyingly brutal labor, and stuff happens on the operating table, and then like someone else walks in, or he introduces you to another character and how they got to Missing. And what's really interesting is that every character in the book like is super dynamic, really well thought out, really rich and wonderful. And they all have a love for medicine. And what I think is that stood out was that Verghese, his first profession was a doctor. And so he can write with such aliveness and such clarity, like such vivid clarity and such like alive is like aliveness is like such liveliness, perhaps is the better word. Oh, one sec. So the first scene in this book, the first really long scene of the birth of Marion and Shiva, is long and moves in and out of time really seamlessly and builds these characters and the setting in such a beautiful and vivid way. I mean, it's so vivid. And so anyways, the point, my point is that I think because Verghese has this background, this medical background, and this wealth of knowledge about the medical field, boy, does he know how to write an operating table scene. And he brings in all of these really interesting and quite fascinating medical issues that just leap off the page. And that's something that it had in common with Covenant of Water. The scenes that I read where he was talking about conditions and the human body and being in surgery, all of those scenes really had a life of their own. They again almost like leapt off the page. It was so alive, it was so beautiful, and I really, really love that. The second thing is that the characters, so Marion and Shiva indeed are born. We know this because Marion is narrating his own birth and the story of his birth. And he ends up, we end up following them through their childhood, and they're all the way through essentially their early 20s, and their life it's like a mix of found family, and there's tragedy, and you just love the characters so much. And it has this really incredible pace to the book, because like at certain points I did not want to put it down. Like, I didn't want any of the characters to be hurt. I cared about these characters. I cared about the Marion and Shiva's family. I wanted the best for them, and I was rooting for them through and through. It was so interesting, the contrast of this read versus the read of Covenant of Water. In that book, I struggled to care for the characters. In that book, I struggled to connect to the main character. And in this book, I connected to so many characters. Marion, one of the Marion is very sensitive, and he overthinks everything. And his brother Shiva, he has his own perspective and his own way that he moves throughout the world. And so in a lot of ways, we as readers, like his brother Marion, who's narrating the story, is trying to understand his brother Shiva. And you get this dynamic of these twins being super, super close, and then the moment in which they split apart as humans, as people who move through the world. So the characters were so great, but I mean, it wasn't even these young men. There was a character, Hamar, who is just awesome. She has tenacity and fierceness and gumption to her that just made me love her. And she made decisions that I adored. And you could just feel the love in this book and the love for these characters. And I really, really, really appreciated that in this novel. And then as it all kind of comes together and they grow up in their lives, of course, there are decisions that, you know, I was disappointed by. There weren't the way that everything comes together. I could see someone saying that it was maybe a bit contrived, but for me, I was just so sucked in. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was really in love, that he made me fall in love with the characters. And so as we were kind of getting towards the end of the novel and he's trying to, you know, I couldn't feel it, but I know, you know, that he's got all these loose ends that he's got to tie up, you know, Verghese, these little mysteries out there that I want resolved. And he was able to do it. Like, I think he pulled it off. I think it worked really well. And so if you have any interest in medical stuff, the operating table, set in Ethiopia, so you're getting a lot, very, very, in some ways, very different issues than what we would get in Western society. And also, part of the novel is set in New York, and so you're going to be getting even, you know, layered different issues from patients in New York coming in than they would even get in Ethiopia. I think he could have been really brutal. I think he could have just taken it off the rails, like, and or made it, you know, a miserable book, like trauma drama. And he doesn't. He keeps it to me within the realms of sanity. And I really appreciate that, because as much as I do quite enjoy a miserable book every now and again, I don't want to be always drug into like the depths of the darkness. But also it was dark enough. There was enough drama to keep me hooked, and it didn't feel like a light and fluffy book. Like, he struck that balance really well. The balance between it being too light and fluffy or like too contrived that everything was just going to work out anyways. And like, you know, it wasn't that, but there was enough drama and enough like misery, if you will, to keep me like really engaged with what was going on. So that's it. I am done talking about this. Thank you so much. If you are, you know, let me know if you've read this and what you thought. Let me know your thoughts about this. I would love to know. But yeah, that's it for me. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye.